Hey guys, I'm back. It is PTS time. The PTS is live, the Necro is live. I've been checking out the class, checking out the possibilities. The future is bright. Necro is actually a pretty interesting class. I've been playing for a couple hours now. I did some PvP, did some Cyrodiil PvE, took some resources, fought some guards. And overall, I think I have a build that's actually working well. We're going for a Magicka Necro right now. And yeah, I just want to show you the build real quick so maybe you can try it out. Maybe this is something for you. So, let's get started. Looking at the stat page, 37k Magicka, 30k health, and 14k stamina. Really, really good. Our Magicka recovery 1700. If I um if I buff up, we get to, wow, look at this, 2100. Amazing. And almost 1k stam regen. Really, really good. Our spell damage 3.5k. With my weapon damage enchant, this goes up to 4k. If you take a resource and get the continuous attack buff, you will have 4.5k. So a lot of spell damage. Our resistances, if I buff up with the armor buff, resistances look pretty good. They go up to like roughly 27k, I would say. I will tell you why and how in a minute. Crit resist 2600, easy peasy. Yeah, that's the stats. We're using the Atronach and Witch Mother's Potent Brew, which got nerfed in this patch, sadly, but it's still good. It's still good. Yeah, let's check out the gear. We are running Rattle Cage, a heavy set. Why are we using Rattle Cage? It's pretty easy. The Necro does not have a spell damage buff, so you either put one on your bar or you use Rattle Cage. And I thought Rattle Cage is pretty nice. I used the set before on other builds and I actually like it, so I thought I'd just go with it. It just makes sense. We are using prismatic enchants on our big infused pieces and just magic enchants on our small impen pieces, just to get some bulk on this build. The second set we're using is Brightthroat's Boast. Can't go wrong with that. The max magicka on the sustain is really, really nice, especially if you're running heavy armor. You kind of have to counteract the fact that you're losing out on regen and cost reduction. So this is a good set. It gives us a lot of damage and a lot of sustain. And the last set we're using is Slimecraw, of course, my favorite set. And it just adds so much more damage. 8% extra damage on top, plus a little crit. Cannot go wrong with that. We're using my favorite combo, a 2H and a Resto Staff. 2H might seem a little weird to you. I personally love running a 2H on a Magicka build, but maybe I'm just a bit weird. You can run a staff or sword and board, whatever you like. I just like this, but there's other options, so feel free to do whatever you want to do. Infused staff, weapon damage enchant, as always. Nernhound 2H with a disease enchant, or whatever you like. Just use whatever fits your build. The jewelry is arcane with full spell damage enchants. Yeah, that's the gear. Let's move on to the skill layout. So we are running Stalking Blast Bones. This is your subterranean assault kind of skill. on the necro. You cast it. It takes 2.5 seconds to activate. Then it runs towards your target and explodes, and it does AoE damage. And this is actually really, really good. So this could be part of a Zerg Buster build, and I will take a look at that because the damage on these things is fucking insane. I hit a player in PvP with a 17k blast bones. Remember, this is not an ultimate, this is a normal skill. 17k flame damage tooltip right now, and the damage goes up to like 50% extra damage depending on how far your blast bones runs. So if you have someone that runs away from you and you just cast the blast bones and the blast bones chase them down and hit them at the max range, 50% extra damage on top. This is fucking insane. I'm pretty sure this is gonna get nerfed because there is no balance in this. Really strong skill. The next skill is Ricochet Skull, which is your... You can compare it to the Warden Birds. You just spam it. It does a decent amount of damage, and every third cast of the ability does 20% extra damage, and like ricochets off and hits 2 other people. Yeah, this is technically your spammable, your ranged spammable, if you will. I personally don't use it like a whole lot, but you know, in a combo, it has its place. The next skill is Hungry Scythe, which is it's like a Magicka cleave. I can show you the animation. I love that. Check that out. Wow. It's super fast, super snappy. It's like a Magicka cleave. Looks absolutely beautiful. I love it. The damage on it is not very high. We have like an 8k tooltip right now. In PvP, you hit like, I don't know, 2, 3k, maybe 3.5k. It's not a whole lot, but it heals you. It has these healing effects, as you can see, which is really nice. And I just like using it in a combo. You know, makes sense. The next skill is Skeletal Arcanist, which is basically your summon. You summon a pet, he runs around and he spams like shock attacks. He has a staff and he just, look at him go ahead. This guy, that is a funny guy, dude. He's super fast and he just stands there and spams shock attacks on your target. And it's really nice to have this guy up because he does quite a bit of damage. And yeah, you can use him for like a couple different skills. You can just drain the body. I personally don't like that. I don't drain anything on this build, but of course you can. The next skill is the Unnerving Boneyard, which is your AoE, frost damage, and armor debuff. So it does frost damage. You know, the radius is not too terribly big, but it's pretty good, especially in like a choke or something, where you can just put this thing in and everyone in this choke just gets affected by it. So that's actually pretty nice. It reduces their armor by 5k, and it does a lot of frost damage. So a really good skill. The ultimate is the Glacial Colossus. This thing is beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful. Some people say, it's too slow for PvP. I don't think so. It's actually pretty fast. And, you know, it just does a lot of damage and has the major vulnerability that it applies to all the targets. So you deal 30% extra damage. So this tooltip, 13k frost damage, goes up by a lot. So you can say 17k. This is pretty insane. And all your other skills will, of course, also hit really hard. So I love it. I killed many people with this on the PTS, even tanks. You know, when you set up the burst and everything just lands and you cast that thing, it's over. It is so much damage. I like it, really. So, on the back bar, we have Intensive Mender. This is your healing pet. You cast him, he follows you around, he gives you a healing beam when you're injured. The healing is pretty strong. This is the morph with the increased healing, and I think it's a wise choice to use this one because you will need the healing. Because believe it or not, Necro actually has a really, really mediocre self healing kit. It's not very good. So it took me quite a while to figure out a healing kit for this build that actually works. And yeah, I will show you how it's done. The next skill is Expunge and Modify, which is yeah, you can say your Purge ability. And this goes well with this ability, Resistant Flash, which heals you but puts a minor defile on you. And the thing is, you cast this as your burst heal, then you have the minor defile on you, and then you use the Expunge to just cleanse it off of you. You cleanse yourself. So you get rid of the healing debuff. This is the way you would do it. And yeah, it's actually pretty good because Resistant Flash is a pretty strong heal. And if you get rid of the healing debuff right away, then you're pretty golden. Don't have to worry about anything. And this guy, you know, it's your heal over time, kind of. It's more like, I think, like 3 little burst heals. Really good. And he leaves a corpse, so if you are running any skills that can drain a corpse, this thing is really nice. Yeah. Next skill is Elusive Mist. I was experimenting with a couple different skills, and this one, of course, Mist Form, always the best choice for like any build. You gotta use it. You get the extra speed, you can cancel it and get the major expedition, or you just stay in there, be extra tanky. Really nice. Awesome skill. Love it. Next skill is Summoner's Armor, which is also pretty good. I used the other morph before, which pulls the target to you when they hit you with a ranged ability. It's kind of like the Swarm Mother set. You know, people hit you and they get pulled. It's nice, but I like this one better because it reduces the cost of my summons. So Blast Bones, Skeletal Mage, Spirit Mender, which are all skills that I'm using, and having them reduced by 12% in cost is actually really good for sustain. So I chose this morph. I just thought it had more synergy with the build and made more sense. One thing I forgot to mention is Resistant Flash is the morph that gives you spell and physical resistance equal to half of the amount that you heal for. This means if you get a nice big burst heal with this thing, your armor will go up. Let me check if this thing gives any armor. No. So if you're full health, of course you get 0 armor out of it. But with your armor buff, which is this one, and this one, when you get like low health, I was at like 27k. You could probably go higher, like 28, maybe even 29k. Like I said, depending on the amount that it heals. So on a strong healing build, this could be really, really good and give you a lot of armor. And yeah, so the last skill that we have is Lights Champion. I'm running a Resto Staff on my back bar. you don't have to do this. You can use an ice staff, for example, or sword and board, whatever you like. Um, I think having a resto staff is kind of nice because you can get a lot of resources back. This is a heavy armor build, so we don't have the greatest sustain. I mean, actually, we have good sustain. When you look at the Magicka recovery, and we get when we purge stuff, we get some Magicka back. I think yes, we get some Magicka back. We have the resto heavy attacks to get Magicka back. We have the heavy armor passives to get resources back. So the sustain should be pretty awesome on this build. But of course, you gotta just learn to play it. I thought this build performed pretty well. Of course, I didn't have like a whole lot of PvP. We just had some fights near Elsweyr. Fought a couple of people. I will include some footage of that. And yeah, so that is pretty much the build. We can go over the CP real quick, which is nothing crazy. It's just my standard setup. I just go over it real quick. Just let you take a look at it. You can do your own spin on this. There's different variations that you could do. This is a pretty burst-oriented build, as you can see from my CP layout here. It's all in burst damage. And pretty tanky in the retry, you know, flat damage reduction, crit resistance, and the strong healing. The rest is my standard layout. You gotta break free, you gotta sprint. A little bit of stamina recovery, which is actually really good on this build because we have, let me check, it is the last passive here, Undead Confederate. You know, when you have a summon active, you get 300 Magicka and stamina recovery. This is nuts. I mean, look at my recoveries right now. Not bad. Not bad. But then I cast this guy and they just shoot up. So you could actually build a high sustain all around build on a Necromancer. You get a lot of sustain on this class, and I really like it. So yeah, that's pretty much the CP layout. Like I said, stamina regen really good. Magicka regen, of course, just pump it up. You need it. Tenacity always good for light and heavy attacks to get the resources back. And we have the 2H on the front bar, so we can get stamina back, a lot of it. We have the resto on the back bar, so we can get the Magicka back. So it's actually a really well-rounded setup. Tumbling, I prefer the tumbling over the Shadow Ward, but if you're using an ice staff instead of the resto staff, you can just switch those. You know, you put 37 in tumbling and do 56 in Shadow Ward, so you get more blocking power out of it. That's how I would do it. You can do it the way you want. And yeah, that is pretty much the build. I hope you like this build. I hope you give it a try. It is a really solid build, and I'm really happy. Like I said, Rattlecage was my number one choice for sets because, like I said, the Necromancer is missing damage buffs. So having a set that just takes care of that is really nice because you don't need to run a spell damage buff. You get the extra skill slot and you can put something else there, which is really valuable in my opinion. So yeah, that's it. I'm gonna go to bed now. It's really late. Been checking out the Necromancer all night long. And yeah, see you in the next video. Have a good one. Bye.